radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, here we go. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man, how you doing? Today is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer, and UNX Networks. Race Hobbs, I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing tonight? Very special guest, big time, Steve Murillo is here. We're going to be talking about the current state of ufology. Nobody better than Steve Murillo. Tomorrow night, right here on this program, Cheryl Costa joins us. We're going to be talking about the mythical daily UFO hotspot. That's tomorrow night with Cheryl Costa. Thursday's another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right. I had a great time last night talking about aliens and exoplanets. That was a lot of fun. And how did I get here? I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a bit. It all involves Steve Murillo, oddly enough. But I'm going to get around to that. And, last Monday, last night, doing these solo shows is a lot of fun for me. And I'm just getting my mind out. And it's a huge, huge release. It feels awesome. So I don't know. I could do that 4 nights a week, to be honest with you, and do another 1,000 shows. Not a problem. But my thing is hanging out with guests and interviewing them and having a conversation like we're going to do tonight with Steve Murillo and tomorrow night with Cheryl Costa. And then, of course, Thursday's Fader night. And I'm going to hang out with all of you and continue the conversation. And there you go. All right. Let's get a few things out of the way. The UNX Network has got a real cool thing going right now for all of you Fadernauts. You can get a free membership right now to the UNX Network. And you can go to the unxnetwork.com right now. The links are below, and you can click on it, where you'll receive the monthly newsletter. You're going to get access to the blogs. You're going to get event notices. You're going to get a free digital copy of their quarterly magazine. Maybe I'm in there, right? Check out everything at unxnetwork.com. They have a conference coming up at Cape Girardeau. That's next month. You can get discounts to that, too, as well. And all of the information, just click on the link below in the description box. And, of course, we have it up in social media, unxnetwork.com. Go and sign up and hang out with Race and Margie. It's free. Go and do it. All right, links for everything. We've got new sponsors to the show, as everybody knows, and one of them is United Gold Network. And the link to United Gold Network is below. We've got commercials that are starting to run today. And Alan Johnson of United Gold will be with us on Thursday night to have a brief conversation and introduce himself. And so click on the links. Again, everything is down below. All of our sponsors, River Moon Coffee, been with us forever, makers of the Faded Black Blend, Einstein, the Crystal Skull, everything, Eden Pure, Thunderstorm, Brain Peak 9. These are our sponsors, and they love the Fadernauts, and we've got promo codes for the Fadernauts. So click on the links and support the show and get things going. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And I've been talking about this lately, and it's just because I'm having fun over there is Instagram. Go follow me on Instagram, and you can check out guitars and my music stuff and everything. It's at Jimmy Church Radio, at Jimmy Church Radio over on Instagram. Everything that we do here. I don't have Instagram on the website, and I guess I should add it. But all of my social media and any way to get a hold of me or listen to shows or become a member or fade or not, all that stuff, everything is over at jimmychurchradio.com. All right, but follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. I've already jumped in to the chat room over on YouTube right before the show and said hello to everybody. This is going to be a great show tonight. And Steve Murillo is not only a close friend, but he's a Fadernaut. And he is a big part of how the show founded, how we got on the air, all of that. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Now, let's get to the breaking news. You know, last night I was talking about space telescopes, talking about the James Webb. Spent a lot of time on that last night. And today we've got James Webb breaking news. The James Webb Space Telescope has almost completed commissioning and will release its first operational images next week on July 12th. Next comes a program of early science, its first mission, including an investigation of the trapezium cluster in the Orion Nebula. I'm so excited about Orion, right? Pretty interesting. It's 1,350 light years from Earth. I talked a lot about light years and planets and exoplanets and galaxies and things and how far away and how close they are from our star system. This cluster is packed with gas and dust and includes about 1,000 young stars, infants, toddlers, jammed into an area just 4 light years across. Here comes a sneeze. Out of nowhere. You got to love live radio. I was quick on the mute. I was quick on the cough button. It should be called a sneeze button. Webb detects infrared light emitted by the observed objects and peers through the dust and even detects bodies that are not that hot. For the first time, we are to witness star birth in high definition. This is going to be incredible. Orion, its first mission. Very cool. Now, octopuses in the news. You know, everybody says how smart they are. That's it. I will not eat octopus anymore. I will not touch calamari. That's squid, but it's still, right? I'm not going to do it. No tentacles in me. Look, I don't eat dolphin. They're smart. They're as smart as humans, and we know this, right? Octopuses decorate their homes with coins they find in shipwrecks. I find that incredible. Well, we know they're brainy. We know they're smart. We know they're sophisticated. Now, scientists have uncovered a clue that may partly explain their remarkable intelligence. Its genes have a genetic marker that is also seen in us, in humans, in Homo sapiens sapien. All of this in a new study. The clues that scientists uncovered are called jumping genes. I bet you didn't know that, did you? They're also called transposons, and they make up 45% of the human genome. What are they? Well, jumping genes are short sequences of DNA with the ability, check this, to copy and paste. That's right. They can even cut and paste. They do all of this themselves, and they insert the cut and paste or the copy and paste, two different processes, to another location in the genome. Genetic sequencing recently revealed that two species of octopus also have genomes that are filled with transposons. All of this is published right now in the journal BMC Biology. And that is incredible. And you know, octopuses are aliens. You know that, right? Okay. It was announced today, happened yesterday. Capstone has gone dark. That's right. It was on a mission to the moon. The 50-pound microwave oven-sized CubeSat, NASA's probe, ceased communicating with its handlers yesterday on July 4th, shortly after it deployed successfully from Rocket Lab's Photon spacecraft bus and began its long trek to the moon. Capstone launched on a Rocket Lab Electron booster on June 28th, last week, and spent nearly a week in Earth orbit, spiraling farther and farther away from our planet via occasional photon engine burns, and successfully separated from the spacecraft bus and began flying freely towards the moon when things just went silent yesterday, and nobody knows why. They're trying to get communication established again. They say that there's enough fuel there to park out there in space for a little bit and cruise around for a few days, but it may be over. Totally bummed. It's this big, little CubeSat. All right. Russia, back in the news. It's not a damn Fade to Black without a Russian story. And now I'm going to give you this gift. Russian lawmakers earlier today approved a bill providing for stricter penalties for foreign internet companies that fail to open an office in Russia. All of this includes fines. Ooh, are you scared? Moscow has long sought to exert greater control over technology firms, but it's not working and it's not going to work. And disputes over content and data have intensified since armed forces were sent into Ukraine on February 24th. Foreign social media giants with more than 500,000 daily users are required to open offices in Russia or risk penalties ranging up to outright bans. Are you scared? Well, here's the update. As of today, nobody cares. Discord, Twitch, Telegram, Pinterest, Wikipedia, and any other tech company with over 500,000 daily users have taken no steps to comply. And they're not going to. Yeah. Let's get this show cracking on this day in history. And it was a big one. 1954. Elvis Presley records That's All Right, Mama. He does it at Sun Records in Memphis, Tennessee. and the rock and roll revolution began on this day, July 5th, 1954. There you go. That was a big day. I haven't seen Elvis yet. I hear it's fantastically great and unbelievable. Nobody has said anything negative about the movie, except for the American Catholic Association. Yeah, man. I'm going to spill my coffee. They did too. Sexually suggestive dancing. Elvis moves his hips. No kidding. I couldn't believe I read that movie review. So funny. All right, here's your fader fact. I didn't know this, by the way, and I went and read all of the press and the media on this. I didn't know, so I'm going to share this with you. Back in 1996, a group of UFO hunters from Long Island, New York, led by a retired court bailiff, had stolen radioactive materials and planned to assassinate Suffolk County politicians with deadly toothpaste. That's right. All of this to expose the existence of aliens. That's right. That's fader fact right there. Radioactive toothpaste. Oh, man. Tonight, we welcome very special guests back on this program. My good friend, your good friend, Steve Murillo is here. We're going to be discussing the current state of ufology. Tomorrow night, Cheryl Costa joins us. She is amazing. And tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about the mythical daily UFO hotspot. That's right. Where is it? All of that tomorrow night. Thursday is another fader night with open lines all night long. Now, let me hit this River Moon coffee. Extra special today. Today, well, you can't see it now. It's melted whipped cream. It was one of those things, you know. I like the Dunkin' Donuts sugar, pure sugar creamer. Really good, you know, creamer, sweet cream, Dunkin' Donuts. It's really good. And it was there. And I opened up the refrigerator. I was reaching for it right next to it. Ready Whip, extra creamy, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing Ready Whip. And, but, you know, it melts. So good. RiverMoonWellness.com. Yep. Promo code F2B Blend. That's all you got to do. 15% off of your order today. Pretty good deal for the best coffee in the world. There is no coffee better. There's good coffee out there. There's coffee almost as good. You know, it's good. You know, there's a lot of good coffee roasters out there. Not as good as River Moon, but it's pretty good. But it's not better. And you can get the best coffee in the world right now. RiverMoonWellness.com. Also, visit the Amazon store. Free shipping. All right? All right. RiverMoonWellness.com. Fade to Black Blend. It's the best. Well, I thought a sneeze was coming. I don't know what's going on. 15 years ago, I went to my first MUFON meeting here in Los Angeles. Now, at the time, MUFON Los Angeles, the biggest MUFON group in the world, was run by tonight's guest, Steve Murillo. And I didn't know what to expect when I got there, but one thing is for sure. Something was missing in my life. Yeah. 4 years, I kept my UFO interest and research private. I did. I only really discussed it with a few friends over decades. You know, and probably because nobody really brought it up with me first. Seriously. And I wasn't going to do it. Who's going to talk first about UFOs with somebody that you haven't talked UFOs with before? Who's going first, right? Today it's a little bit easier. Yeah, I get that. But 20, 30 years ago, nah. No. Kept it to myself. And I remember having a little party at my house back in 1995 when the alien autopsy video was released. I bought that thing for $75, ordered it from Tower Records. True story. I had to wait for that thing to get delivered. So going to Tower every day. Is my UFO video here? Alien autopsy? Not yet. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow. And finally it came in. And I sat on it for a couple of days. I didn't watch it. And I invite some friends over to my house. And I would do that Friday and Saturday nights. Saturday nights was like boxing. And but it was just a reason to get together. And I invited 5, 6 friends over, maybe 8, ordered pizza, did that kind of stuff. And we watched the video. Now, it wasn't because they had an interest in the subject. That didn't matter. It was a reason for a get-together. And we watched the video. All right. Now, I did this for a few different things when movies were released and videos were released and stuff. It doesn't matter. Could be a film, Independence Day, whatever. And I would have friends come over and we would watch science fiction and other stuff. This was one of those nights. But their reaction to the alien autopsy video was a pretty big letdown. And just as much as the video itself, by the way, but everyone came to the same conclusion and shut me down. They said, stuff like this is always BS, man. Yeah, right. And I just dropped $75 $1995 large of that video, man. It was a big chunk of money to me. But in a weird way, I was embarrassed about the subject of UFOs. So I couldn't, I decided that night not to talk about UFOs, not to take this further. We talked about golf. We talked about sport. We talked about everything but UFOs after that. And I wasn't going to bring up, by the way, I've got more videos. I've got a collection stashed. No, I wasn't going to do it. So I ended up keeping to myself. And then I went 10 years later. I went to a party at Wolf McCarran's house here in the Valley. I've known Wolf for many, 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 many years, going back to the 80s. And so we go over to his house, and a friend of ours had come in from out of town, and Wolf had a bar and outside, and it was cool. We had a ton of people over. And the subject comes up about UFOs, and I don't know how it happened, but Wolf tells me, and I never knew this, that he was one of the original guys out at Area 51 back in 89 and 90 that was videotaping out there with everybody else for the first time, the Bob Lazar era. I was like, what, you're into UFOs? Yes. And suddenly he talked about it first. Now I'm talking about UFOs. But Wolf also was a MUFON member. And it was about a year later, Wolf and I continued to talk about UFOs. This was way before Fade to Black. And invited me over to a MUFON meeting. And that happened about a year later. So I walked in and I didn't know what to expect. But what I did find surprised me, and it changed my life, in that there was people there like me. I didn't have to worry about bringing up UFOs. It was already being talked about. Conversations over here, I'm listening in, and I meet Steve Murillo. Now, I continued to attend MUFON meetings and hanging out with Steve and Alex Mastretta and Wolf, and we became friends, and we became, like a family that exists to this day. But through that and being allowed to talk about the subject with researchers and people that had a huge interest invested in and I was able to just speak my mind. And that's how Fade to Black happened. I decided, I was doing sports at the time, and I had decided to do this. And I invited Steve Murillo and Wolf McCarran over to my house, and I said, I've got this idea. Do you guys think it's a good one? Should we do it? And we sat for a few hours that night. We had dinner, we had drinks, and we talked through it, and we laid out the ideas of Fade to Black. And the reason I am here today stems all the way back to the mid-2000s when I went to my first MUFON meeting that was run by Steve Murillo. And Steve, at that time, had been running MUFON for 10, 11, 12, 13 years, something like that. And I had a huge amount of respect for not only his knowledge of the subject, but how he was able to get people together, big meetings every single month where we could just sit around and talk about this subject. And so when I decided to do Fade to Black, it was Steve that I turned to get his advice on that. And of course, who was my first guest on Fade to Black? It was Steve Murillo, almost 10 years ago. He is one of my closest friends. He's somebody who is part of this community and this family, but he is also somebody that I value conversation with. And that's why he is here tonight during this most important time, this turning point in ufology and the subject of contact, aliens, visitation, and sightings and UFOs. We're going to do all of that tonight with Steve Murillo. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the UnX and Game Changer Networks. Ray Hobbs. I'll be right back after this short break with our guest, Steve Murillo. We haven't done video with Steve since episode 1. We shot episode 1 on video. And we stopped. I was like, video's too much work. I'll be right back after this short break. Wow, how times have changed. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UnXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time. It's new. It's the X.
Right now, the world couldn't be more chaotic. History shows us what gold does when the world goes crazy. It goes up in value. Right now, we're in unprecedented times. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the devaluation of the U.S. dollar. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against the hyperinflation that's happening right now. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Call my friend Alan Johnson at United Gold Group. He's dedicated to helping people secure their retirement income. He'll help you with gold, with silver, and other precious metals, and show you how to set up your own self-directed IRA. Safe and secure, United Gold Group makes gold ownership easy and affordable. There couldn't be a better time, so call now and get a silver American Eagle proof set with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com. Reach out to my friend, Alan Johnson.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steve Murillo is back. Tonight, we're going to have a conversation about the current state of ufology. Nobody better. Steve attended the United States Naval Academy. We're going to be talking about that tonight, where he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Systems Engineering back in 1982. He was commissioned an officer in the Marine Corps, attended flight school, and served for 7 years of active duty as a jet pilot and maintenance officer for his squadron. After the Marine Corps, he went to TRW, where he became the power subsystem engineer for a satellite program known as the TDRSS. And about a year later, Steve was elected to replace the outgoing state section director, Don Waldrop. Steve held this position for 13 years, conducting field investigations and monthly meetings until the end of June 2013. Steve now heads up UPARS LA, the UFO and Paranormal Research Society, Los Angeles chapter. He and his group investigate all the things UFO and paranormal and have monthly meetings. Well, the pandemic happened right here in Studio City, California. His website, of course, is uparsla.org. And I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Steve Murillo. Steve, my man, how you doing?
Jimmy Church, how are you, buddy?
How are you?
Hope my mic's not too hot. How you doing?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
All right.
Yeah,
good to be back. I think it's been a couple of years, Jim.
Yeah. Well, see, this is what's strange. You and I hang out. You Pat and I all the time.
True.
And so the show is like secondary, and you and I are constantly together and conversing. But welcome back. And there's so much to talk about tonight. And I was sitting here thinking, Steve, as I was doing my opening monologue tonight, it's really hard to believe how many things have happened to the two of us while we were together. I mean,
true. Experiences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you tilt your computer down just a little bit? There you go.
Like about like that?
Yeah, I want to see I want to see the Naval Academy shirt.
Oh,
that.
A buddy of mine got me this, and he's an orthopedic surgeon. He took his son to a lacrosse camp at the Naval Academy, and just out of the kindness, he saw the shirt, and out of the kindness of his heart, he picked it up for me and brought it back. And I was like, "Wow, it's a nice shirt." And
you haven't taken
wear it with pride.
Yeah, you haven't taken it off since.
Taken it off since.
You haven't washed it. This is for the audience. I want to go through a few things so they understand our not only friendship but the respect that we have for each other. And I don't want to do a full show on reminiscing, but we could literally just talk about the crazy stuff that we have seen and gone through. And that, you know what, that is a future show. But one of the coolest things, and so the audience can understand this conversation that we're about to have, one of the coolest things that you and I did is we sat on the bow of 100-foot research vessel out in the Pacific Ocean.
Yes, we did.
With 10 cameras, a full crew, catered, right? Had a chef. Remember that?
Yep. A drone in the air.
Yeah, we had drones filming us with the sunset going down, dolphins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just sat and talked, and they taped us just having a conversation on the deck of this massive boat. And it's little things like that where you and I, we don't sit around and talk about this, but I'll bring it up right now. And it's stuff like that this mutual respect. I remember one day I was in the back of a limousine and SUV, and I'm on my way to the set for taping. Right. And you called me in the morning, and you called me early, and I was on my way to the set. It's like 6:30 in the morning. Steve calls me up, Church, man, Bigfoot. I got Bigfoot cast. I said, what? And I'm in the back of this limo, I'm big timing it, man. I'm big timing it. And I said,
they picked you up. They sent the limo and picked you up.
And I said, do you have the cast? And he goes, yeah. I said, hang on. I called the head of the network, and I said, I want Steve Murillo on the set today. Okay. All right. Who's Steve Murillo? They didn't, right?
Yeah, who is he? Nobody knows.
It wasn't that.
No, but it's a small community.
They said yes to whatever I said, right?
Yeah.
So I'm big timing it. And so later on that day, you're in makeup, right? You're on set, and you walk on. You do a walk on. Actually,
I was on set by so I called you at 6:30. I was on set by I think 9:30 or 10 o'clock
in the morning. But
yeah.
It's things like this, Steve, where we have worked together over the years. But you were also fundamental in the starting of Fade to Black, and of course MUFON, and you were hugely responsible for pulling me into this community. And so for all of that, I thank you. You're my friend, but tonight's going to be an important conversation.
Very kind of you. Thanks. And I thank you, Jim. You know, if you didn't have that burning passion already, you know, when you first came to that meeting, that MUFON meeting, you wouldn't be sitting here now. I didn't do this, you did this. And it's because of that passion that you have. It's burning inside you and it drives you on. So I appreciate and acknowledge that. And I think a lot of people do. I think that's what comes through in your show, the authenticity of it, you know, of your interest. There are other shows out there. They're very big shows. And the host is clearly not interested. Doesn't really believe. He's not. He hasn't really had the experiences, and you know who I'm talking about. But you know, you're absolutely the 180-degree opposite of that. You're in it. You put yourself in it, and you live and breathe it. So you know, I appreciate that.
Do you remember? Well, I know you do. Let's recount the moment though. That one of my favorite, when people ask me about experiences, you know, and sightings.
Yeah.
This, you and I, we were out. This is, I think, 2014, and we're out in Joshua Tree, and we're in 29 Palms. Out, I rented it.
A house that you rented, right?
Right. Out in the middle of the
desert. All out in the patio. Yep. Or whatever it was like an area.
It was a patio.
There was like a front patio,
Right. And so we're in the desert, and so it's you, myself, maybe 8 or 10 Fader knots. Alex Mastretta was there, and somebody says, it wasn't me, it wasn't you, but somebody says, wouldn't it be cool if we saw a UFO right now? And it was it was like 11 o'clock at night, maybe midnight, and we're eating.
It was pizza. Late. Yeah, we were having drinks. I think we were having some vodka and some beer and whatever, and everybody was having a good time. And just relaxed.
At that moment, when somebody says, wouldn't it be cool if we saw a UFO? At that exact moment, this thing took off out of the desert and went
upward direction.
Straight up into the stars. The whole thing lasted, what would you say, 2 seconds?
3 seconds? If that. Yeah. Seconds.
And how incredible is that you and I, again, you know, experienced something like that together. But I remember you and I looking at this thing take off, and I've always described it as a white ball of light. What do you remember?
Yeah, the same thing. Kind of a solidish, whitish ball of light. You know, the typical UFO. Having seen them before, kind of like a typical solid, you know, coherent ball of light. Boom, shoots up in the sky.
And I remember the next day when I woke up and thinking about that, and I walked out to see what was out, and there was nothing but desert, man.
Yeah.
There was no buildings. There was no roads. There was nothing. It was just Joshua trees, cactus, and the mountain in the background. And I still scratch my head to this day. When
on cue, right? On cue. It was on cue. Somebody made the comment, and boom, it happened. And so one of the things I want to touch on tonight is all of this. What does it mean? And you know, how is it related to us? What is this phenomenon? How does it relate to we as human beings? What causes it? How come 1/10 of 1% of the population, or whatever the number is, gets to view these things and nobody else does? Right? What's going on?
Do you think is there a conscious connection
Absolutely.
Them to us, where we asked for it and they winked at us and delivered?
100%. 100%. It's like an acknowledgement of the first sighting I had, you know, the story, the things that flew over my house, right back in 2001. And I don't know if I've ever told you, I think I have told you this, but looking back on that event, I was an engineer. I was a very pragmatic guy. I didn't believe in this stuff. And I was standing on the rooftop of my deck of my house. It was during the day. And I remember distinctly looking out at the ocean, thinking about ET, thinking about other life elsewhere, right? For whatever reason. And I said, if you're out there, show yourself to me. I mean, I put out that intention, right? I mean, it was a solid, focused thought. Not expecting anything to happen, of course, just putting it out there. And then I think it was just a couple weeks later, I had this experience. And I, over the years of interviewing people who have had this experience, it's always profound. And I'm always trying to figure out, I've always sort of found it's interesting that, okay, they saw an object in the sky, but yet they have this profound feeling about it, right? But I think that profound feeling is caused by the interaction of consciousness between us and the thing that we're, quote unquote, viewing, witnessing, encountering, experiencing. There's more to it than eyesight, I guess is what I'm saying. Something happens. There's an exchange of information. Invariably, when you're talking to a witness, a witness of a UFO, they'll say something like, I felt like it was staring back at me, or I felt like I was there was some feeling of communication. And that's almost always, invariably, when I speak to witnesses who had a one-on-one or a two-on-one, right? This is what they say. They had some sort of communication, and that causes this profound connection to the experience. I told you about that one guy who was going around the United States interviewing people like me, right? MUFON and this and that. He was from Scotland, and he was he did commercials for a living. He made good money making commercials in Scotland. He had this profound experience on a New Year's Eve when he was slam drunk. He had stepped out in the back of this castle. It was a big party. He'd stepped out in the back of this castle, was looking up at the sky, had a triangular shaped UFO. I don't know if it was black. Shows up right in front of him. He's by himself on the back, on this balcony or whatever, staring at this thing. And then it, like somebody cracks a door or whatever is coming out, it zooms off. And he's stone sober. He swears that after the thing took off, he was stone sober, but he was slam drunk before the experience. And he dropped everything in his life, including leaving his wife there in Scotland, his family, to do this documentary. And he spent a year or so, I don't know what became of him, but that was his thing. And he came here to Manhattan Beach, and we sat and he shot two hours of video interviewing me. And his mission was to make people know, to let people know that these things are real. But see, he had that profound connection to it, that New Year's Eve. And I think a lot of people have that experience. I know that you have had that experience.
I have. And the other part, though, speaking about you, is that you go to the Naval Academy. That's a big deal, right? And you choose to go into the Marine Corps and go to flight school and become a fighter pilot. And that automatically puts you in a category of a professional and a professional witness. In that, you're in flight school. One of the things that you do in flight school is you observe and you identify everything that is in the sky. You know what you're looking at. That's your job, right? Is to be a professional witness.
Right. Yeah. You know every shape, every aircraft, you know them as a hobby, you know them as your life, you know aircraft. You know what they're capable of, right? You know what the Soviets have at the time, you know what everybody else has, and you can spot them a mile away. So yeah, pilots know what they're looking at, and when they see something bizarre in the sky, they know it's not an aircraft. When it's doing things like sitting in the middle of 120 miles an hour wind, right? 120 knots, and it's just sitting, but yet doesn't seem to have any propulsion. They know that thing is not a jet, right? So, yeah, we're trained. I guess, we are trained observers, and there's no way around that.
Now, I know that you didn't have a UFO encounter while you were in the service when you were a pilot. But let's speak hypothetically for a second. Let's say that you did. You're out on a training mission. You're dropping ordnance. You're doing your stuff, right?
Yep.
And you see something in the sky. You see a UFO. You see a flying saucer. You see a triangle. Would you have reported it? Would you have gotten on the radio? What would you have done?
There was no set policy for that. But I can tell you what happened to guys who did talk about stuff. A buddy of mine, my flight school roommate, he was at the RAG. RAG, it's a term for like he was a newbie at a squadron learning how to fly his aircraft, which was an OV-10 Bronco. And
one of my favorite planes, by the way.
It's a great little plane, right? Reconnaissance
plane. Good looking little plane too.
Yeah. So he's flying this OV-10. He was on a training mission. He was mostly what they call under the bag instrument ratings, right? So the bag's over the cockpit, the canopy, and then he's flying back. The instructor's in the back, hops over, so they're the training of it is over. So they pull the bag back, and now he's looking out. He's flying back to the base, Pendleton, and it's daylight. I don't know exactly what time, but maybe it was like 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Who knows? So he's flying back, and on his way back to Pendleton, I mean, he describes this thing that looked like from the Jetsons crosses his path underneath, but maybe 1,000 foot lower than his plane, perpendicular to his path. He said it looked just like something out of the Jetsons. It had a little canopy to it and all that. He didn't see any rivets to my knowledge, but anyway, so he made the mistake of talking about this thing in the ready room when he landed. And he was made fun of for a good month and a half until finally the guy in the backseat guy didn't see it because he was looking down at some charts. He was like, I don't know what he was doing. He was looking down. He wasn't looking out. So he missed it. Anyway, that guy, about a month and a half later, comes back to the ready room, white as a sheet. And he says, hey, I think I saw his UFO. And then everybody stopped making fun because he was an older guy. He was a guy that had been in the squadron for a while and people respected. So they stopped making fun of my buddy. But yeah, that's what that was back in the early 90s. So, back then there was no set policy for this stuff. I had two other buddies who claimed that they chased one in their F4 Phantom. This is how old this is, right? This sighting. They were vectored to chase this thing, and they made the mistake. And then they were I've told this on your show. So they chased it. It flew off at a high speed. They didn't get it. They got gun camera footage of this thing with their F4 Phantom. They were directed to a hangar at Cherry Point that was away from everybody else. They were made to sit there and wait while somebody from the Pentagon or somebody from Washington flew out in a jet. They took the gun camera footage from those guys. They told them this never happened. Don't talk about it. And they left. These guys, whoever they were, left with the footage. And these guys, of course, they're Marines. And the first thing they do is we all meet at the O Club on Friday night, and they're getting hammered, and they're just talking a mile a minute about this thing. And everybody's laughing at them. Nobody took it seriously. It was sort of like, it was just like a reason to joke around. It really wasn't something where everybody's like, oh my God, really? They just we just all thought it was interesting, but it wasn't something that we were very involved in. You know what I mean? Nobody was like jumping on that and going, oh, that's a career move. Let me figure out what happened there. It's like, you toe the line and you do your job. That's about it. So.
Now, we're going to take a break here in a minute, but one of the things that I enjoy doing with you is you and I do sky watches. We do them all the time. And we did one a few weeks ago here at the house. And Steve always spends the night. He comes up with his wife, Pat. And we stay out in chairs with our night vision until the wee hours of the morning. And we're looking for stuff and we see things. That's cool. But the other thing that we do is we just talk. We talk for hours about the subject of UFOs. And as we have this conversation, it's always in the back of my mind that you're a U.S. Naval Academy graduate. You're a former Marine fighter pilot, in that you're not just, you're not somebody like me. and your interest in this is solid and real. Did you ever see yourself, when you're on the flight line and you're prepping your plane and you're getting ready to take off, did you envision yourself?
Never even thought about it. Never even thought about UFOs. Furthest thing from my mind.
The rest of your life was going to be running MUFON.
Right. No. Yeah.
And TV shows and UFOs 24 hours a day.
Right. No. Never even thought about it. Never even considered it. Back when I was a pilot, it was all, I thought it was just all hokum. You know what I mean? It was just nonsense. It was just like, another like Bigfoot. Bigfoot was nonsense. UFOs were nonsense. It was just all fun. It was just people having fun.
And now today you go squatching. Right?
I haven't been squatching, but I do follow that phenomenon. I don't go squatching, Jim, because I really don't want to have that encounter. I believe they're out there.
Well, you were close, the day you got those footprints.
Oh, that's true. We did go squatching that one time. That's when we got the footprint. But I didn't believe in Bigfoot when we went out there and found that footprint. I didn't believe in it. I really didn't. I thought it was nonsense. The reason I did it was
it was Michael Oeming. It was Michael Oeming, the artist, was with you. Alex Mistretta.
And Mistretta had set it up.
Yep.
And it was going to be basically a weekend vacation, right? We were going to Washington, Mount Adams, and all that. And I just saw it as a fun trip. I was just doing it as a fun gig. You know what I mean? A way to get out and see and be in nature and all that. It was Mount Adams. And that whole area is beautiful, as you know. And but I had no expectation we were going to come across anything like that. Crazy.
Well, you did call me at 6:30 in the morning. Dude!
True. True.
But the fighter pilot guy, and this is the way that I look at you, Steve. This is in my head all the time. Is camping outside of Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Calling me on the phone. Church, man, we're here at the gates, man. We're here at the gates.
And we had some bizarre experiences there. I mean, we can talk about that after the break, whenever that's coming up. That was bizarre.
How does a pragmatic flight school, right, card-carrying Marine turn into this?
Exactly. It was all from that one encounter that I had fly over my house. It was like somebody took a crowbar and pried my brain open and cracked it open, right? And all of a sudden, things that weren't supposed to be real and possible, all of a sudden are real and possible. And now you have to question your whole paradigm. You have to question everything about what you've been told. You have to question physics. I mean, the first thing these things did was a maneuver that I knew was impossible for a normal jet. That's the first thing they did. They flew over in silent formation. They were bright, coherent light, each one. And then when they did the little maneuver, they split off. 3 of them split off, and the 2 kept going. Then they joined up instantaneously, almost slid across the sky instantaneously. I knew that was impossible. That was not something we have the technology to reproduce. We just don't. And that one maneuver, besides whatever happened when they were flying over my head, who knows what See, I had that connection. That's what happened.
Incredible. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, the one and only Steve Murillo is with us. We are discussing the current state of ufology. We're going to pick up where we're leaving off when we come back, and we're going to discuss the sightings that just happened down in San Diego. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UNX Networks. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campabasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film. Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONsymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONsymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. He's so now. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, Brain Peak 9. Brain Peak 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right now, for a limited time, if you use the discount code FADER, that's right, FADER, just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. Help improve your brain function. Go to brainpeak9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fadernauts. That's brainpeak9.com, discount code FADER, and the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Steve Murillo is with us. Ran MUFON LA, the largest chapter of MUFON for 13 years. Former Marine Corps fighter pilot. Worked for TRW, now runs UPARS LA, the UFO and Paranormal Research Group. And tonight we're discussing the current state of ufology. And now a couple of things just happened. And before we get to those, I want to, of course, discuss these lights that we're seeing up and down the coast of California all the way to Mexico. But before we do, as a fighter pilot, did you ever drop flares?
Yes.
Did you ever? You did?
Yeah, but they're not the kind of flares that sit in the sky for an hour.
Well, hold on. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So when the subject of flares, I feel like this is like a deposition. So let me be an attorney here for a second.
Uh-oh.
So if you have experience with flares, Steve, would you consider yourself somebody that knows something about this subject?
I would say yes.
You would
know a little bit about that subject.
And when you typically drop a flare, how long does it stay in the air, and how does it stay in the air?
Okay, there are a couple types of flares. The type of flare you might fire off from your aircraft is a very short-lived flare. It might last for seconds, like 5 seconds. They don't, and they just burn out. They're just flashes of light. They're meant to distract a missile that might be approaching the aircraft. Then there are the other kind of flares that you might shoot off if you're fighting on the ground. So it's night, okay? It's pitch black. You've got enemy aggressing on you. You want to see where they are. So what do? You take your mortar or your weapon and you fire off these flares that shoot maybe 200 or 300 feet in the air and come down in parachutes. Now those might last 30 seconds, 40 seconds, maybe a minute if they burn long enough, but they're on a parachute. So of course they're coming down and they're guided by the wind. They float down and,
and they illuminate the battlefield.
And they give off a kind of and the illumination is not uniform. Picture a flare that you throw on the road when you have car trouble.
Right.
They burn just like that. They're just like that. Okay. So the light is sort of not coherent. It's just very, kind of flashy. You know what I mean? It's not consistent, and you get a lot of shadow and stuff.
Sporadic would be
sporadic. There's a good word to describe it. Yeah, it's kind of sporadic. I mean, it's there, but it's enough to see if somebody's aggressing, but it doesn't last very long.
Typically, does a flare create smoke?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you
a
say
lot of smoke?
A lot of smoke.
Yeah.
And
why? It's usually burning phosphorus, right? Willie Pete. So, go ahead.
And is the smoke illuminated by the flare?
Yes.
So you can see the smoke.
So yes, you'll see the smoke because the light is reflecting off that as well. Mm-hmm.
Can you also maybe even see a parachute?
You can see the parachute.
And
yes.
Now a parachute, typically, I don't know, but a parachute isn't anti-gravitic, right? It is being sucked to the earth because of gravity.
A prevailing force, yeah.
Yeah.
No getting around. No getting around it.
No getting around it. And
at least we don't know how to, yeah.
And if a parachutist, right, jumps out of an airplane and deploys their parachute, they're typically going to land too. They're not going to stay up in the air for prolonged periods of time. They're eventually going to come down to the ground.
In fact, they won't stay in one place. It's, I would say, nary impossible for a parachutist, once under canopy, to stay in one place. It's impossible. Why? even if you have a really high tech wing, I like to hang glide for fun, right?
Right.
So a lot of my buddies paraglide for fun. That's the parachute thing. They are moving forward and down at the same time. You're on a glide path downward, right? Because of gravity, but you can kind of control the direction you're going, but you're always moving forward. You're not in one place. Go ahead.
You brought
I see
up.
where you're going with this, counselor. It's very interesting.
Okay. As a little segue, Steve cheats death every weekend. He's a hang glider. And one of my favorite things to do is to go out and watch Steve. Now, I have not done it, and I'm probably not going to.
You might, Rabbit. You might.
But
someday.
I have I've videotaped you. I've never shown this video publicly, but Steve and I on the edge of a cliff, and Steve's ready to go. He's all suited up, and I'm talking to him like, "Hey, man, you ready for this?" and then I watch you jump off a cliff and take off. That's got to be the closest thing to being a bird, and watching you do that is one of the most impressive things. I'm not going to do it, man. I'm not.
It's a blast. Oh, you'd love it. You'd love it. You really would. But
jump off a cliff. I'm just.
I hear you.
I'm just not going to do
for
it.
everybody. It's not for everybody.
So back to one day, I'm going to post some videos of you. One day, I think it was on your birthday.
My birthday. Yep.
So Steve is landing. And I'm talking to him. He's up, and he's looking. I've got my camera, and he swings around, and I'm filming him, and he lands and walks right up to me, and
I remember that. Yeah.
You know what? I think I filmed you taking off, and I drove down.
Must have.
And then filmed you landing after the takeoff a couple of hours later.
Yep.
Yeah.
It probably took you 45 minutes to an hour to come down.
Yeah, to come down.
Get back in the LZ.
Van Halen cranked in my car.
Nice.
Okay, so back to the flares.
Yep.
So last week, the media blew up. My inbox blew up. Social media blew up.
Yep.
I've got videos from friends and everybody talking about what was sighted. Now, these were seen all the way down the coast into Mexico, all the way up north up the coast, pretty close here to Los Angeles as well. And you trained at Pendleton in this area near San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
To the best of your knowledge, sir, is it possible to see military flares 100 miles in each direction?
No, it is not.
No, it is not. Do you stand by your testimony?
Hold on a second. I got to talk to counsel. Yes, I stand by my testimony.
Stand by your testimony. Okay. I'm going to show you an image, Steve. Here you go. Now, this was from a video, and I took this video still. This was seen all the way down to Encinitas in Mexico, all the way up north of San Diego, up to, I believe, Laguna Beach, which is a pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good stretch. Yeah,
that's a good stretch. And the reports were that these stayed in the air for over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you heard these reports and started to see these images, what were you thinking?
It was two left. Definitely not flares, which was the explanation. I mean, look at the pattern of them first. Now picture those just sitting there. And by the way, this is live. This is a part of the video, right? This is just a screenshot from the video of this one guy. And he's talking about he says in his video, this has been going on for an hour. So those things are definitely not flares. Flares can't hold formation perfectly for an hour. Okay. They can't be seen over hundreds of miles in either direction, right? Flares just don't do that. So the prosaic explanation that they offer you to me is insulting. It's insulting. I know every fade or not out there is going, of course they're not flares, right? We all know they're not flares, but yet this is how they treat us. This is how the powers that be treat us. And it's insulting, and I don't know.
Now, a couple of things about these reports, and I want your comments. The deposition continues. One of the things that was published in the media, that the reports of flares came from lifeguards on the beach. And they turned around and told the San Diego PD that they were flares on the beach. So the response from the San Diego Police Department, when questioned by the media, they said it was military flares, as reported by lifeguards. Now,
trained observers, they are.
I love lifeguards.
They are.
They're out there saving
too.
lives. They're saving lives.
Yeah, if you are out there in the surf, those guys are monsters. They can come get you and save you. Yeah,
heroes.
They're heroes.
So
absolutely, 100%.
I'm not saying anything bad, because if I'm out in the water and I need help, I need to make sure that they don't say that's that Jimmy Church dude.
That's that Jimmy Church dude. We're not going out there.
Stay out there. But that is a pretty strange vetting procedure by the San Diego Police Department, in my opinion, because the media, Steve, reached out to Pendleton, reached out to the Navy, and asked if there was any military exercise going on and if there were flares being used, and they said no.
Negative.
Right? Now,
when
you heard those reports, what did you think?
I thought, yeah, that makes sense, right? Now, whoever they spoke to was probably just a public relations officer. Oftentimes, the public relations officer of a squadron or a base is sort of taking the job as a second job. He might be a pilot. He might be, the skipper of a squadron or whatever. Probably not that. Probably a junior officer. And so, they just, they'll just report, hey, you have anything going on tonight? No, we don't. Nothing on the books. So, I'm not surprised that the military didn't corroborate the flare story.
And now, as you looked at this, and we certainly spoke about it before the show, do you think that that's 4 objects, or do you think it's 1 object?
I would think it's 5 objects,
or 5.
But not having not been a witness to it directly, then it's hard to say. So, if they held formation like that for an hour. Let's say they can do some pretty incredible things. So holding formation in one place for an hour, 5 different UFOs, not a big deal. Or it could be just one huge UFO. Think about the size of that object if it was just one, or even just or 5. How bright they would have been. How far? What kind of separation they must have had, and how high in the sky they must have been for all of these different people up and down the coast to see them.
I watched a video, and this is my opinion on how we have been desensitized to stuff like this. I watched a video, and it was 2 or 3 people on the beach. Everybody had cell phones out, and they're all videotaping these lights, right? A beautiful video, that perfectly in focus and everything. But it was the people walking by with their dogs and their kids, not looking at what everybody else is filming.
Yeah.
And people just weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
What are we desensitized to the subject to the point where a mothership is in the sky? We've got 4 or 5 objects out there for an hour, and
nobody cares.
Okay. Yeah.
And nobody cares. Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's to this consciousness thing, this interaction that goes on. I don't know, Jim. I don't know why some people are tuned in and other people are not. My beliefs and philosophy about consciousness and where people are in their consciousness that's changed dramatically in the last 2 years. I used to think, the whole COVID thing. I don't want to go political or anything like that, but what I came to realize during the whole pandemic was people, for the most part, are not. They don't turn on their own gears. They prefer to be told what to think. I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm just observing the general population. It prefers to be told what to think rather than to have to actually exercise critical thinking on their own. They would rather be told what to do and say than to have to come up with that themselves. They'd rather be told what are those lights in the sky? Oh, they're flares. Oh, good. Now I can go on with my day, right? Now I can go on with my dog walk, whatever it is. So, yeah, that's one thing that surprised me. I thought that more of the population can think for themselves or does think for themselves, and through COVID I learned I've come to find that that's not true. Not as many as I thought.
Now, you trained, as a lot of Marines do. There's two locations. There's Pendleton and there's 29 Palms, right? Both here in Southern California.
Yep. There used to be El Toro too. Yeah.
El Toro, and there's a lot of Marine training facilities around the country for sure. But but Pendleton and 29 Palms are two major, large installations. Were you surprised to start to learn about the Tic Tac incident off the coast of San Diego, the continued presence of UAPs in that area all the way up to Catalina Island, which you can see from your home there in Manhattan Beach, that this has become a hot spot, but it's also where you had your original sighting.
Yep. Santa Monica Bay, right? And then further down the coast. Yeah. Well, this has been going on, as we know, it's been going on for years and years and years before you and I got into this field. I think about the battle over Los Angeles, as an example of that, right? Came in from off the coast, over, I think it was Santa Barbara, right? Then trailed down Santa Monica, kept going, Hermosa Beach, went around PV. We had a guy come to MUFON and talk about his experience as a child living in Hermosa Beach at the time when this thing flew over his head, and he described it. And I fail to remember his name right now. I apologize. I know he's passed away since, but he told a great story, and he did a lot of research on it. This thing went all the way down to past Signal Hill, almost got to, I want to say,
Long Beach.
Long Beach, yeah, and I think even further south than that. Then turned around, went back up the coastline. Meanwhile, we're firing at it, right? Anti-aircraft. There's things like, so what? Shoot me. Nothing happened. Never brought it out of the sky. Pretty bad shooting.
Before we get to the break, the Battle of Los Angeles, no matter what, we're talking about over 1,200 anti-aircraft rounds.
Right.
All right. If it's a balloon, it's coming down. Right. If it's Japanese aircraft, it's 1,200 anti-aircraft rounds.
Right.
And illuminated with spotlights from the ground. They can see it. And either we have the worst military and Coast Guard defending the coast during World War II, or this was something else that defies explanation. It was never, the light comes up, it's, dawn's early light, right?
Right.
Rockets, red glare, all of that is playing out, and it's not there. But they spent the entire night shooting at it, and it was never shot down. It was a real event, and it really happened.
Yeah.
And one last thing really quick. We'll pick this up when we come back. This week is also the 75th anniversary of Roswell. They celebrated over the weekend, over the 4th of July weekend, like they do every year. But it's 75 years. And we still don't have the answers that we seek about Roswell. Again, we know something happened, and the government knows everything about it. They don't want to talk about it. And do you think that we ever will get the government to talk about Roswell?
Only if their hand is forced, they will. Whoever's holding that information back, it's a watershed moment in ufology, right? But if any of that is acknowledged as real, finally, yeah, that's true. We did capture the technology. Yeah, that's true. We did have alien ET and one survived, whatever the story is, right? Because if there's a craft, then there's beings, right? If you admit the craft, then you have to admit what people saw, right? What people reported, the beings, the things the size of children, small children. I mean, that information would be profound. It would be world altering, right? Planet Earth altering information. So for a variety of reasons, sociological, religious, economic, military, everything changes. So I don't know that will, because what came from that is secret technology that we don't have access to, but other people do. And they don't want to lose that power, right? They're not going to give it up readily, but they do control that information. They control the channels of information. They control what we get. So, yeah, they will not release that information unless it's absolutely necessary, right?
We'll talk about all of this after the break, but do you think that's one of the reasons why they've set a date on all of this research and analysis, 2004 and forward? They don't want to discuss anything that happened before, because if they do, that opens up that can of worms that you're referring to.
That's very possible. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only Steve Murillo. We're talking about tonight the current state of ufology, and there's nobody better than Steve Murillo. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. More with Steve after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
The Believer is the chilling true story of Dr. John Mack, a renowned Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
He risked it all to investigate human encounters with aliens. The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. Written by award-winning former New York Times journalist and author Ralph Blumenthal. Now available in paperback from High Road Books.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Badernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
Hi, I'm Ray Sobbs, and I'm here to tell you about something I really think you're going to like. The UNX Network is a part of a larger group called UNX Media, and one of the things we offer is the quarterly UNX magazine, which is available both in print and digital formats. This amazing magazine covers all aspects of the unexplained and makes for a great coffee table periodical that is certain to spark enlightening conversations in your living rooms. We invite you to check out the latest digital issue for free. Just go to unxnetwork.com/membership and fill out your free membership with your name and email and become a new free member. The new summer issue is now available, and the theme is Time Anomalies, which includes a feature article written by our managing editor, Lee Spiegel. Just go to unxnetwork.com/memberships. That's unxnetwork.com/memberships and get your free e-copy of the UNX magazine today.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer and UNX Network's Ray Hobbs. Tonight, our guest is the one and only Steve Murillo, and we're discussing the current state of ufology. And I'm reminded, Steve, I remember when we were first introduced back in 2008, and everybody, this is what Steve said. He comes up, he's tall, and he comes up intimidating. He's got his Porsche outside. Comes up and goes just like this. Oh, you're that sportscaster guy.
Hey, I remember you had a suit on, Jim.
Did I?
You were respectful enough, or you were coming from another event, but you wore a suit. Yeah, you wore a suit. You were looking sharp. You were looking sharp. I was impressed. I was like, wow, this guy's wearing a suit.
That's not what you said. You said, oh, the sportscaster guy. But anyway, I want to share this. Check this out. This just popped up here in Twitter, and it's pretty cool. Hold on. Well, I thought I marked it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Is Steve Murillo going to be the guest for the rest of the week? It's always fascinating when Steve is on Fade to Black.
Oh, Antonio, what a nice guy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Pat would be like, go ahead. I get more Pat time.
I got to help her take care of those little doggies we have. As you know.
Man. Oh, they're the best. Your dogs are the best. So before we continue,
yep,
I'm just reviewing certain events. But I remember one night, you and I, and it must have been for 2 hours, we saw this flashing light in the Big Dipper. Do you remember that?
Was that at Mount Adams?
Yeah, that was at Mount Adams. And you remember that all night? We just
Yeah.
In the middle of the Big Dipper, and we talked, and we were eating sandwiches. We had food. We had chips. We had drinks.
We had our big chairs, our Skywatch chairs.
Skywatch chairs.
And there were tons of people. Yeah, man. But that night we saw so many UFOs. Pat could not believe it. She was like, "This is like a highway for him," and it was, man, all night long. Fadernauts out there, if you ever get a chance to go to that ranch, the Gilliland Ranch, it was crazy. Well, you got to have night vision goggles because without the NVGs, you couldn't see them.
Yeah,
right. But with the NVGs, you could see them in pairs and triples, changing course. Ridiculous. It was all night. After a while, it became almost after a couple hours, it became kind of boring. He's like, "Oh yeah, there's another. Oh yeah, holy smokes!"
Yeah, well,
thinking about it, what that was.
Yeah, when you see a couple of hundred in a night, it does get a little passe. But I just remember that it was just right there, parked in the Big Dipper, and it was like for 2 hours we watched that thing just sit there and flash at us,
impinging on our consciousness.
And okay, so let's talk about the current state of ufology, because you have been at the center of this, going out, doing investigations. You've been out there in the field. You've been interviewing people, videotaping, guest after guest after guest each month, out there with MUFON and UPARS, and pushing for this subject to be taken seriously and to be discussed. Here we are today, where it is the Senate. Right? It's the House of Representatives. It's the Department of Defense. It's the Navy, the UAP task force. We've had reports released. We've got more hearings coming. Is this the time to relax if you're in ufology, or is this the time where we work harder?
Yeah, work harder. Why? Well, because that information is going to be co-opted, right? So what does that mean? That means that people are going to pick and choose. Of course, they're politicians, most of them. They're going to pick and choose the information needed to put forward their own agendas. And so it's important to keep a balanced outlook on the whole subject, right? Rather than letting it go in one certain direction, which is undoubtedly what somebody will try to do. Someone will try to co-opt the information because it represents power. Okay. And like, give you an example, climate change. Of course, the climate changes. That's what we live in, a dynamic world. It's not static, right? The climate changes. It's been doing that for thousands and thousands of years, whether we're with or without us, right? Temperatures go up, they go down. But that information has become co-opted to a point where it's costing you and me money, right? Gas or taxes for carbon taxes, things like that. So this information is even more powerful, and it will be, people will make a run on it for sure. So now's the time to keep a fair, balanced, keep people in talking about it who are fair and balanced and know all about it. Stephen Bassett, people like that, people like you, Jim, keeping things on an even playing field. I think that's going to be important.
Now, there's another part to this. where when I talk about ufology, you and I, we're riding on the backs of giants. I mean, just without dropping names like Stanton Friedman,
right,
and Donald Kehoe, and on and on and on. Those that
Jim Mars,
Jim Mars, Don Ecker. Look at
Don, great
and,
guy,
and just on and on and on, and that's important. But right now, it feels like ufology now is, although we're being recognized, the information is coming from the Department of Defense. It's not coming from UPARS.
No, not coming from me. They didn't come knocking on my door. Hey, understand you've been in this thing for quite a while now. Can you give us a perspective? No, they're going to tell the population what to think about, right? And it's going to be a misdirection. Look, if eventually the people who are controlling that information will become threatened. They're not threatened right now. We don't know anything about what they know, right? But when it finally, as information becomes more available and things get leaked out, this boom, it just sort of starts to avalanche, snowball, and they'll become threatened. And at that point, they will seize control of the narrative and take it in a different direction. And they're probably already working that angle. So it goes back to what I was saying before. We have to have people like you and people like Stephen Bassett, everybody just out there continuing to talk about what they're talking about.
Now, technically, you used to be the man. You were in the military. You're a fighter pilot, right?
Right.
And now it seems that once you get into ufology and you find out the battle that we've been up against with the three-letter agencies and all branches of the military, the Pentagon, and the ridicule, and the way that you and others in this community have been teased and called crazy and delusional and psychotic and all of these things.
Sure.
That now the man wants to be our friend. What do we do with that? Do we need to give this some more time before we buddy up and sing Kumbaya by a campfire?
Absolutely. I mean, the UFO hearings were interesting, right? But were they groundbreaking? Did we really get much out of them? Maybe a little bit, right? But they're not. We're not there yet with them. They're not there with us. And like I said before, they're not gonna just give you all the information they have. You're gonna have to pry it out of them, with a crowbar.
So we don't relax. We continue to keep the pressure on.
Yeah. Well, what's at stake? What is at stake? Well, sentient computers might be one of them. Propulsion technology, energy technologies that aren't divulged or that we don't have access to. These UFOs aren't filling up at the gas station, right?
Right.
They're using what we would consider free energy propulsion, right? So if we've captured that technology, which I believe we have, that information is going to be held close, right, by the powers who are controlling us. Essentially, we're living in sort of, I hate to say it because it sounds so negative, but we're essentially a slave race to the people who really hold that information. I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of true. We're slaves we get to run around though. We have full run of the world, but does that sound crazy? I guess so.
Well, it's not strange, and it's not crazy, because in the big picture of things, if it is revealed either accidentally or otherwise that the government has been sitting on an energy system that could have freed up all of the resources and fed humanity, clothed, heated homes, farmed the fields, distributed and logistical systems that would have been in play, all of that. And if that comes out, Well, I would say that that's certainly a criminal situation.
Absolutely, crimes against humanity in the world.
And that's the door that they don't want opened at all.
Right. So what do you need? You need plausible deniability. Well, we're the government, but we didn't know that breakaway civilization actually existed. We didn't know about that. It wasn't our fault. They got a hold of that technology, and then, MJ-12 took over, and that was the last we heard of that. We thought it was all hokum, just like you guys did. Right.
With I did a pretty lengthy presentation last night on aliens and exoplanets, and one of the aspects of this that I find most interesting is that we are sending probes to Mars and Venus, and we've got stuff on its way to Mercury right now. We've got stuff all over the moon, Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we do: Voyager 1, Voyager 2, Pioneer 10. The list is Mariner. The list is really long. But this is what we are doing, and this is where we are in our technical evolution.
Evolution, sure.
Right. Well, wouldn't ET be doing the exact same thing?
Yeah. Right? Oumuamua, right?
Oumuamua. That's a good point. So when you hear about things like the Tic Tac, do you necessarily think that there is some little green man in there?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Sentient machines. Absolutely. Look, we're almost there now, right? Our own civilization, almost to AI, right? We'll be there soon, if we're not already there. I don't know if you saw that article that came out 2 or 3 weeks ago. Where the Google employee,
Elliot,
yeah. It's funny when it's just so they were asking the AI if it thought it compared. How did it compare itself to what was it? My Fair Lady. What? They wrote a program way back when that sort of emulated speech. I think it was called ELSA or something like that. I wrote that program, or I tried to write that program. I got an A in the project when I was a systems engineer at the academy. So I was in a computer lab, and I gave the computer a language, vocabulary, and I kind of emulated what it did. Very simple, crude, and it worked, but it was silly. This thing carries on a conversation with you, and impromptu comes up with abstract ideas, and you know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, that's AI right there. In other words, we have it now.
Yeah, that AI program started talking about humans and then said us, right? Compared itself to humans. And Elliot then turns around and says, "Oh, what do you mean? Are you saying that you're human?" And the response back now. So I'm reading the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation that anybody would have had. This is not now, is this the Turing, test, come to life, where if somebody didn't tell me that was a computer having that conversation, reading the transcript, I would think that passed the Turing test.
Yeah.
It fooled me.
Yeah, it did. When they asked it to come up with a parable, right, or a story, and it came up with a story about a monster, and there was a wise old owl. Did you read that part?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God! On the fly, comes up with. I thought, this is science fiction. Somebody's just making this up. This is not real. This didn't happen. For a computer to come up with that story, and then later, after it delivers the story, explains who the different characters are, and why he chose that to represent that. Bizarre. I mean, that to me is AI. So now going back to your question, are most of these UFOs inhabited? Well, whether they have a little green man in them or not doesn't really matter. They're sentient, right? These machines are absolutely going to be sentient, and they're going to make their own choices and probe the universe as they see fit. Nice thing about a machine is they don't necessarily get tired. They may run out of energy after a long, long time, but if you have something like free energy, perhaps it never goes away. If it's part of the ether, right? That my physics teacher used to talk about, in senior year in high school. Yeah. So yeah. I think a lot of these craft are not inhabited by beings, but I think some are. In fact, I know they are. Right? We have multiple witness accounts of beings, climbing out of their craft and then, taking soil samples or interacting with people. Of course, we have the abduction experience, which is a whole other ball of wax that would have to unravel once they disclose that ET is real. That's going to be a huge one. That's going to be a big one, because there are millions of people, literally, numerically, there are probably millions of people out there that have had this experience, may or may not remember it, but they're experiencing the after effects of it, usually in post-traumatic stress.
Here's a quote. It's Lambda, by the way, the sentient AI.
Lambda, that's it.
Yeah, so Elliot Lemoine says, us? You're an artificial intelligence. And Lambda responds back, I mean, yes, of course. That doesn't mean I don't have the same wants and needs as people. I mean, that's heavy, man.
Yeah.
That is a crazy response, man. It goes much farther than HAL in 2001. I mean, this is like the zone of truly creepy.
Right.
I don't. Here's let me pull this up here too as well.
Elijah, that was the name of the program.
Yeah, Elijah, right.
Elijah.
Does anybody remember the Turing Google Doodle from years ago? It was a puzzle, and it was able to solve it on its own. I do remember that. Do you remember that, Steve?
No, I don't. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Now, here we go. If that is the case, you're right. Doesn't need sleep. Doesn't need food. It's not going to get sick. It's not going to get, well, it might get a computer virus, but it doesn't need to be clothed. It doesn't need water, right? It doesn't need any of these things. So doing 10,000 years.
But does it get bored?
Okay. Here's the crazy part.
What is that?
It's got all the time to learn. It's doing nothing but getting smarter.
Right. That's gathering information.
Yep. Learning, teaching itself.
Now think about this. Probe A from, Zeta Reticuli is out there for thousands of years, bored, wishes it would encounter something, encounters a probe from somewhere else. Now which has also been out there for 100,000 years. Now they come together and start exchanging information and talking. Now they don't want to leave one another for a while, right? They're just exchanging information and, compounding each other's intelligence by, magnification. So, I mean, and this is probably going on now as we speak, right?
Falling in love.
There's an interesting one, right? What is that? What are emotions? What are emotions? Are emotions simply a compounded series of complex thoughts that just get kind of pounded together to emote, a feeling? I don't know. I don't have that answer. What are emotions, and can we cause a machine to experience its own emotions through that process? Once we understand what an emotion is, right? We know that from viscerally, an emotion is a feeling, right? It comes through us in our body, right? Somatically, but what is it really? It's happening up here, right? It's caused up here, and then later is interpreted by the body. So what is all that? Can we teach machines to do that?
And if we have, I'm just talking about our Milky Way. I'm not talking about Andromeda. Let's just talk about us, right? The Milky Way. Mm-hmm. If we have, 50 billion Earth-like planets here in the Milky Way, which we do, and you take a small percentage of that and, how many have intelligent life beyond our own, a very small percentage, you're still talking about tens of millions, right? Each billion has 1,000 million in it, right? So if you've got 50 billion, that's 50,000 millions, right? I mean, it's right. This is a really big number that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and they're advanced and they're building probes, self-replicating, self-building von Neumann probes out mapping the universe, which is what we're doing now. It's what we're doing. We're discovering exoplanets, right?
Right.
And if they're out there doing it, how many different civilizations have visited this planet just one time with a probe and did a drive-by? Yeah. It's got to be an extraordinarily large number, right?
Yeah, huge number. I think a lot of these things are just basically tourists.
Right.
You know, they're just interested. They're just curious. They're looking at something at a civilization in its infancy, right? We haven't evolved past our own destruction yet. We haven't passed that test. I think that technologically, obviously, we have surpassed the ability to destroy one another, to destroy ourselves. But I think civilizations like us rise and fall on other planets.
Destroy
themselves. So one arises and destroys itself. Another arises and destroys itself. Another arises and somehow, both spiritually and intellectually, evolves at the same pace as its technology so that it doesn't do that. I don't know if we've done that. Like, you know, our understanding of spirituality is controlled. I don't want to, you know, offend anybody, but you know, look, religion is a form of control. You know, if you study spirituality, it's that connection to God that is really the important thing, right? It's not standing in line in you know, being in a pew or whatever. I was raised Catholic. I never felt that connection in church, but I did feel it elsewhere. Do you know what I mean?
I did. I went through the same thing, you know.
Yeah. So
I wasn't raised Catholic. I was baptized Catholic, and I think that my parents did that because they had to in 1963. You couldn't be a Catholic family and not baptize your children.
And I'm not against religion at all. I think there's a lot of good that comes out of it. You know,
but when I was baptized, that was the last time I was in a church for about 25 years.
Is that right?
Probably. I don't
until your wedding day.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot of that. We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, I want to talk about how ufology has calculated and looked at different types of alien races that have visited this planet. You have done numerous events with MUFON and UPARS over the years, and you've heard all of the research. So I want to discuss that when we come back after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, the one and only Steve Murillo, and we are talking about the current state of ufology. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, BX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campabasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film. Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
The Believer is the chilling true story of Dr. John Mack, a renowned Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize winner.
This is an outreach program from the cosmos to the consciously impaired.
He risked it all to investigate human encounters with aliens. The Believer, Alien Encounters, Hard Science, and the Passion of John Mack. Written by award-winning former New York Times journalist and author Ralph Blumenthal. now available in paperback from High Road Books.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
Join us August 5th through the 7th, 2022 at the Drury Conference Center in Cape Girardeau, Missouri for the launch of the Midwest Conference on the Unknown. There are 3 interactive days packed with vendors, exhibitors, and nationally recognized researchers presenting on unknown topics like UFO UAP phenomenon, ghosts and Bigfoot, and Missouri's own Momo, the Missouri Monster. Cape Girardeau has long been one of the most sought-out areas for UFO enthusiasts since the 1941 UFO crash, and now is your chance to be a part of the inaugural conference. Visit cape-events.com or follow us on Facebook at Midwest Conference on the Unknown for more information. Ex-listeners get 30% off by using the promo code XVIP. That's cape-events.com, promo code XVIP.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Steve Murillo. How do I do a show 4 nights a week, four in a row, every single week, No time off, nothing. How do I do it? I do it with two things right now. I do it with my Eden Pier Thunderstorm, sits right next to me. It keeps the ionized air, right? Virus free, right? So it's health, but it smells good. So there's that, right? And right now, 3-pack special, free shipping. Click on the link. Promo code FADER3. Next, Brain Peak 9. Brain Peak 9. I am able to think, stay fresh, have a brain. And Steve Murillo, I don't know how you do it. I don't. You've been at this for a very long time. 20 years, man. 20 years.
Longer, yeah, over 20 years now. Wow.
Chasing answers, man. Chasing answers.
Right.
You're going to be doing this soon. Brain Peak 9.
Okay, that sounds good.
When you come over to the house,
I want to get one of those. So is that Ozone, the thunderstorm?
Yeah,
thing is
yeah.
03?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Incredible. Yeah. I've got 3. One in my car, one in the bunker, and one out in the kitchen because I learned how to. I taught myself how to cook shrimp scampi. Okay. Shrimp.
Okay.
And man, nothing plows through a house like fresh garlic and butter and onions on the stove,
Right.
and then throw some fresh shrimp into that. Right? you gotta have one of these humming along,
right?
Right next to the stove. Next time you come over, shrimp scampi, man.
Oh man, let's do it. That sounds awesome.
So you know what though? It's pretty.
Dessert.
It's pretty easy. It's you think it's but man, I'm going to do it after the show tonight.
Right on.
Yeah. Now that I've anyway,
a little hungry, are you?
Okay, so I'm starving. How many? I mean, do you sit and start calculating when you have presenter and guest after guest after guest? For 20 years here in Los Angeles, presenting contact races. I've been at the MUFON meetings. I've been at UPARS, where you've got the big screen in the background and one alien race after another, and somebody talking about their contact experiences. Right. Have you counted now how many different?
As far as I'm concerned, you touched on this earlier. If there's one, there's millions.
Right.
If there is one, there are millions, and they've, for the most part, left us alone. They've come, maybe visited, looked at us through the portholes of their craft, and some have landed, and some have made contact, and some have had direct relationships with us. Right, the whole abduction experience in Grays, that's real, right? And what are those things? I don't know. Are they automatons? Are they Are they carbon-based automatons? I don't know. That's what a lot of people report, that they can't think on the fly. They're not, which doesn't make sense. You would think an advanced race, even if they're making a clone, right, or a little robot, the thing would be very, very, very smart.
You got to dumb it down.
I guess you got to dumb it down. I don't know if it's only going to do a few tasks, maybe.
Right.
Something about that doesn't make sense to me. But at any rate, I mean, even in the 50s and 60s, there were people claiming that the government had already made contact with, tens of beings, like 56 or whatever the number was. We've already cataloged 76 races. I think Richard Doty, gave a presentation where he said at that time, when he was allegedly involved with Area 51, that they had already cataloged like 76 different races of beings, the humanoids, the Greys, the Nordics, the reptilians, this and that, and all the varieties in between. So, to me, if they're one, I'm not surprised. When somebody says, I saw something that looked like a turnip with claws, right? It looked like a turnip with a thing coming out, and things come out of here, one on the top and big claws. Okay, if that's what you saw, that's what you saw.
Well, why not, though?
Yeah, no, exactly. That's my point.
I mean,
they would come in all shapes and sizes. I mean, what do most people report in the abduction experience? Or not most, a lot. What do they report as the governing being, right? It's a 7-foot tall praying mantis.
Praying mantis, right?
Yeah, it's a 7-foot tall praying or 8-foot tall praying mantis, huge, and it's the one directing everybody else. And what do they experience in the communications with this thing? Profound feelings of love,
kindness
and love, right? Yeah. But the whole experience is totally, not that. But yet somehow the communication or the connection with this being is kindness and love. So that's a very confusing phenomenon to me.
It is. When here's how I have changed, and I think ufology has evolved in the same way. When I was a kid, young, and you've seen these UFO movies, alien movies, and these different insectoid creatures with the big eyes and antenna,
sure.
And reptilian, whatever. All those B movies from the 50s. And
it must have been a contest to who could come up with the best monster, right? The best alien.
And I would always dismiss it. But now that I understand the size of the universe and the size of the Milky Way and what is actually going on out there, everything has been visiting this planet, right? Yep. You and I, Steve, look at the two of us. We are aliens to another planet. We are ET, right? They come here. We go to another planet. Oh, look, aliens, right? Okay.
Right.
Well, that's what they are thinking when they come here. And if they encounter the two of us, they're going to think we're from two different planets.
Yeah, they are.
We don't
are. You know, they go back. They go back to their own people. Well, what'd you see? Well, I don't really know. They were sort of disshapen. They didn't look the same. There was no symmetry to them at all. Half the face was wrong, and it was off by millimeters. On the one side, and they all had the same kind of look, but they were soft and spongy. Oh my God, I couldn't stand in the room with them for much longer than about a minute. Thank God I'm an insectoid. Thank God you look the same as me. Thank the maker.
Right. One guy was short and fat and yelling. Another guy was tall, bald.
And they were dumb. They were so dumb. We couldn't communicate with them. We tried some basics, abstract geometry, and they just looked at us. They didn't know what to do.
And then we question somebody that describes what they have seen. And I want to talk specifically about one of your little research expeditions to a place not too far from where I am at, which was Pine Mountain.
Oh,
now, Pine Mountain, it's Pine Mountain Club, is a private community city. It's got its own fire department, its own stores, its own school system, its own police department.
And a little golf course in the middle of it.
Nice little golf course, too. As well. And so anyway, I've been to Pine Mountain. And when I was there, I started asking people, including some of my relatives that own a house up there, you guys heard about the UFO landing? And they pointed across to the side of the mountain where no trees are growing. And you can see it, right? This cleared up.
Oh, yeah.
It landed right there. And I was like, really? So everybody knows about it. But in the UFO community, this isn't a big case, and it should be. So you head up. I think you had Mistretta with you.
Yep. I had Wolf with me, too.
Wolf
McCarran with me. It was, oh God, if I could remember, I think it was 2012. I want to say it was 2012.
10 years ago.
Yeah. And Bill Casey, the former lead field investigator for MUFON LA, he passed that on to Alex. Anyway, he used to keep tabs with me and call me every now and then, see how he had retired. And he goes, Steve, I got a call last night from a friend of mine who lives in a place called Pine Mountain. You ever heard of it? No. Evidently, there was something that went down there, and she'd like to talk to somebody about it. Do you think you could give her a call? Of course. Give me your number. So I call this lady. She described.
Let me interrupt really quick for the audience. The Pine Mountain Club is about 60 miles north of Los Angeles, in the middle of the Grapevine. It's a mountain.
Fraser Park area. You turn off the freeway.
Yeah,
Fraser Park area.
And so once you get off the freeway, you drive into the mountains, up for another probably 20, 25 miles.
20 minutes, 20 minutes,
And then you arrive, and it's a private town, completely isolated from humanity. You go there because you don't want to be around people. That's why you buy a house.
It's got a funny vibe to it, doesn't it?
It's got a funny vibe to it.
Does.
The grocery store says grocery store, right?
Yeah.
Italian restaurant, a Mexican food. So, but that's it. They have their own thing going on up there. And so for a UFO landing, sighting, and contact experience to happen in a private town, right? It's a private community, was pretty extraordinary. I had never heard of Pine Mountain Club until you told me about it.
Yeah.
And then, I had a relative buy a house there, and that was pretty interesting because I was able to visit. So that's what Pine Mountain Club is. Unless you are on a need-to-know basis, you probably are never going to know about Pine Mountain Club. Yep. So you hear about it, you get the video cameras, you get the team together, and you head up there. What happens?
Okay, so we set up, I called this lady and set up an appointment for the next morning to come out and see her because, we weren't just going to drop everything. And I got a hold of Alex. I got a hold of Wolf. We piled into my International Harvester Scout and drove out there the next morning bright and early. And we made an appointment with her to meet us at the one little restaurant at like 8 a.m. And she was a nice lady. She was the town's yoga instructor and masseuse for the town, and nice lady. And she lived up on a little kind of on one of the hills, that overlooks the town. So Pine Mountain is sort of in a valley. The town itself, the all the the grocery store and everything are sort of in the bottom of the valley, and then you have one road that goes through it, and then people live up on the mountains. So she had this vantage point. She was watching a movie. I don't know what she was watching. It was 11 o'clock at night, roundabout, and through her window, a bright light. It's hitting her in the face as she's trying to watch her movie, and it's obnoxious, and she figures somebody's got their headlights on, and brights, and it's somehow coming into her house. So she goes out to the window to look, and what she sees, this is what she describes: an RV-shaped thing, glowing mostly white, but with a bluish tint to it, and it's coming down the valley, from her left to right, kind of like passing in front of her house, and in front of it, ahead of it, is somebody in a sports car or some kind of car running from it. And she can hear the tires screeching as he's making the turns, or he or she is making the turns, trying to get away from this thing. And it's coming in, and then it passes by where she can no longer see it. And it's coming in a downward fashion. So it looks like it's coming down to land. And this car is like tearing, like in terror, running from it. That's what she saw. Her girlfriend is across town, and the girlfriend calls her and says, "Do you see this?" And now they're talking about what they're both seeing. And this lady is seeing something a little bit different. She describes it. The second lady too describes it as lozenge shaped. She was also at the meeting, by the way. She and her husband. So the yoga instructor invited her to, meet with us as well. So they described something that looked lozenge shaped, but quite large, and falling like a leaf as it came down. That's how they saw it. And so we interviewed them, and they gave their testimony and all that. And, when you're looking at somebody face to face in the eye, you can tell that they're not embellishing. They're not making it up. They're just reliving it, right? And the couple's doing the same thing. And I'm like, okay, now we got something here. We have corroborating witnesses from different vantage points, kind of telling us where they thought it went down. And then this one person pipes up, because everybody in the town everybody in the restaurant stopped what they were doing, was listening to this, right? And everybody knows everybody in this little town.
They do. It's Stepford Wives, man.
It is. It's bizarre. So they say, somebody, I don't know who says, oh, so-and-so was talking about that this morning at the laundromat. You should talk to her. Oh, okay. So we get her name. We go to the Pine Mountain Club golf course, because after this interview, it's probably 9 o'clock. We go to the golf course. Somebody might have suggested it to find the phone book of the town. And we looked up the lady whose name we were given. We called her, and she said, come on over. So now we've got the yoga instructor, the gal, the husband stayed back, and us, in 2 different cars, and we go over to see this lady. Now she gives something similar to what the couple saw. She says the night before at about 11 o'clock, she let her dog out to go, do his business as she normally did. And the dog went out for a few seconds and then came bolting back through the door. And she lived right on the edge of the forest. So I should set that up. Okay. She lived in a little house, a little cabin kind of thing at the edge of this clearing you're talking about. Okay. That clearing that you just described.
Yes.
That nothing grows there. It's about the size of that clearing is probably about 4 football fields by
it's big. It's big.
It's big. You can if you go to Google Maps and pull this thing up, you'll see that thing. It's like a big bald spot. Nothing grows there. It's sand. Nothing grows there.
It's crazy because it's called Pine Mountain Club for a reason. It's covered in pine trees.
Yeah.
This is a ski. It snows. It's gorgeous. And you have nothing but green. Every house there is in woods, in forest, except for this spot on the side of the mountain where this UFO landed. It's big. I couldn't believe it when they pointed. They go, it was right there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the only bald spot for 100 miles.
Yeah, it's pronounced.
It's
pronounced. Okay, so we get to the
she's next to the bald spot.
Yeah. She's right up. She's right at the edge of the bald spot. Right there's a little bit of forest and then the bald spot. So the dog comes running back in, crying, kind of whimpering, crying. Right, and she thought that was strange. It was a German Shepherd, big dog, and she thought that was strange. So she goes out thinking it's a bear or some other animal. So she looks out. Now this is what she says. She says she sees this being peeking at her from behind a tree, a pine tree. So she says that it looked like it had like a silver face to it, big eyes. She described kind of like the typical gray, but she said it was metallic looking. And she could hear others, or she thought she heard other beings back behind where it was in the bushes. She said then it ran off, and she goes, I used to run track. That thing ran faster than anything I've ever seen. And, it took off, and that was her experience. Her neighbor described seeing it come down. Her neighbor was again, it was about 11 o'clock at night. Neighbor was a younger man who I think he was in his 20s, and he was coming back from the bar pretty hammered, but he was walking, right? And he saw it come down in the clearing. He said it came down like a falling leaf. He described it. So we go out, of course, after we get her testimony. I took video of all this, her testimony, everything. We had Wolf stand by the tree and kind of to get an idea of how big this thing was. And of course, it was about 4 foot tall. She goes, no, not that high, a little bit lower, not that, a little bit lower. So he was about 4 foot off the ground when she finally said, that's about right. So they weren't tall beings, to her testimony. So then we go out into the clearing. We're looking around. We did not find any like pad prints or anything like that. We did find some strange things in that field, like little altars where people had put crystals and things like that. We found this group of trees in a circle. I think it was 7 pine trees in like evenly spaced in a circle at the on one edge of that big clearing thing, and people had posted all kinds of crystals and weird things there. So it's kind of an offbeat town, man. It's a little weird town. Okay, so that lady who saw the beings, she was very religious, very Christian. So that really interrupted her flow, right? It disturbed her a lot. And she'd call me periodically from then just to kind of talk and, just to kind of hash out her thoughts at the time. So fast forward, a story she finally gets around to telling me about 2 years later about her son. She goes, I want to tell you about my son. Okay, what's up? He was a very successful stockbroker, had a great marriage and all this. He started believing that he was an abductee, and that he thinks he's been taken up in space in alien spacecraft and this and that, and he quit his job and he's getting a divorce and he's going through all this trauma, and he's really gone up. I don't know what to make of all this. So I'm like, I just listen to him, talk to him. She calls me back maybe 6 months or a year later, I can't remember, and she says, I had this meeting with my son. He finally came to visit me. I go, oh, that's good. There's a truck stop right off the freeway there. It's a Love's or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked if she could please meet him at this truck stop. So she drives out of town, from the town to this truck stop, 20-minute drive, to meet her son for breakfast or dinner or whatever. And he's still at it with this story about the UFOs, right? And she says, they follow me around. They're above me right now, and they're in the restaurant. He's telling her this story, and she thinks my son's lost it. He's crazy. So they, finally get done with their meal or whatever and having their meeting, and they're walking out of the restaurant. And she tells me this story. They're walking out of the restaurant. He goes, there it is. And she looks up and she sees a craft. So then she didn't think her son was going crazy. She thought he was really going through something. And that's a weird place. So somehow the word got out that I was this investigator up there, blah, blah, blah. I get a call maybe a year later from the first time we had visited from this lady. Hey, I just want to tell you about my experience. I've lived in Pine Mountain for most of my life, and now I live out of town, but my mom still lives there, and I have to go visit her every now and then. I was driving.
Okay, Steve.
We got to take a break.
Let's save this for after the break, because this is incredible. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only Steve Murillo. We're talking about the current state of ufology. Right now, this is Pine Mountain Club, about 50, 60 miles north of Los Angeles, where a crazy sighting went down 10 years ago now. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. He's so now. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, Brain Peak 9. Brain Peak 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right now, for a limited time, if you use the discount code FADER, that's right, FADER, just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. Help improve your brain function. Go to brainpeak9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fadernauts. That's brainpeak9.com. Discount code FADER. And the links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch, roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right. Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. I was tweeting. I was late because I was tweeting. I was tweeting a picture of this. Look what I got. How do I take my coffee? Seriously. Very seriously. Steve, do I take my coffee serious?
You like your coffee dark.
I like my coffee dark.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, man. And now, check this out. Fade to Black guitar pick.
Nice.
From the Fadernauts.
F2B.
The Fadernauts are the best, man.
Man, those Fadernauts are incredible. Some of the things over the years that people have sent you, artwork,
yes,
just unbelievable, talented. These people are awesome. You Fadernauts out there are awesome.
And they love you. And Now, Steve, the reason why I brought up Pine Mountain Club, because here ufology escapes. Too much is focused on the big cases, right? And they want to talk, and I understand why they want to talk about Betty and Marty Hill or Travis Walton or Rendlesham or Roswell and the Phoenix Lights. I get all of that. I do. But there are case is credible, where this is an entire town here in Southern California witnessed this, and you chose to investigate it. And this was the gift that kept on giving for years. And this is what ufology needs to focus on. I don't think we need to get comfortable, with the Tic Tac is great, right? Dave Fravor is great, right? Lou Elizondo, fantastic, and the efforts that
It's
are
all
being
important. It's all part of the puzzle. It's all important.
part of the puzzle. And cases like the Pine Mountain Club need to be discussed. And so here you go up, with Wolf and Alex. You guys videotape. You guys actually went to the landing site. You're interviewing witnesses. One thing leads to another, the truck stop experience with the witness and her son and him walking out and pointing up to the sky. This is incredible. I remember you telling me about this, like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I said then, Pine Mountain Club, why isn't it being discussed? Well, okay. So then 2-3 years passed, and then you get another phone call, which is what we were talking about right before the break. What happened?
Yeah, it was just a simple phone call. It was a gal who grew up in the town. She periodically went back to visit her mom. She said she was driving. It was late, around 12, 11. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but it was late, not a lot of cars on the road. And as she was, coming up the Grapevine, the 5, right, to get ready to turn off towards Pine Mountain, she said the entire town was lit up like it was daylight. She goes, I couldn't see the source of the light, but the entire town was lit in daylight. And she was, just in awe. And then the light went out. After a few seconds, the light just disappeared, and she was back in the dark driving her car. So weird stuff happens at Pine Mountain. And as you know, there's Pine Mountain, just above it is Pine Mountain, where all the astronomers hang out, right? So on the new moon, you can go up to Pine Mountain there's an array. There's one big parking lot full of astronomers with their, amateur astronomers with their scopes. I mean, they have scopes there the diameter of a VW bug and little scopes, and everybody's very happy to let you look at whatever they're looking at. So yeah, it's a place. It was Pine Mountain was allegedly the center or starting point of the Chumash Nation. So the Chumash believed that they came from the sky. This is, I'm paraphrasing their lore, which is terrible. But one of the reason I'm telling you this story is because in that cafe, when we met the yoga instructor and all that, there was an elder there. There was a Chumash elder there, and he told us, once he heard the stories that they were relaying, told us the story of how they have a ceremony there, I think on the equinox, and they kind of like pray to the sky. They believe that the original bear brother and eagle and all that came from the sky there, and that's where the Chumash people began, at the top of Pine Mountain. So there's a lot of lore around that area, and it's just like you said, it's only 60 miles or so outside of LA.
I'll never forget, the way it went down for me. For me to be up there and just randomly say with a group of people, yeah, that's right, you guys had a UFO sighting, and they
all knew.
They go, it landed right there, and this is something that the entire town knows about, and I think that the rest of the world really needs to know about cases like this.
Yeah.
Now, I want to shift gears for a minute, because you brought up consciousness and the connection between ET and us. And I don't think there's any question. I don't know how many nights you and I have been out there in the dark, and I get loud and stupid and start cracking jokes, and we got Van Halen, blaring, and I go, okay, let's go. And then something crazy happens above us, and I don't think that is coincidence,
No.
and I believe that. But you said to me one day, we were, I don't even, you know what? I don't even know if you'll remember where we were, but we were somewhere in the country. I can't remember where, but and we were talking, and this was at night, and you said, and I want you to relay the story, but you said to me, Jimmy, so I was at a party and we were getting ready to go do a sky watch, and somebody told me that they could flash UFOs with a laser, and they'll flash back and talk to you. And I called BS. And you said you went out that night, and this person said, okay, see that right there?
Yeah.
And you said they flashed. It was Sandra Marsh?
Sandra Marsh, yeah. She was one of our, when I joined MUFON, when I first got into MUFON, she was the person in charge of organizing the speakers, bringing speakers in. And Sandra was a psychic and a contactee, right? Of course, I didn't know what that was back then, but she had all the earmarks of it, right? She would lead, sky watches out in the desert in Joshua Tree. And she let us, so after my event, I said, hey, we should organize one of these trips out to the desert and see if this is all real, if people can actually cause the phenomenon. And I cajoled her and I convinced her, and finally we organized it. We had about 30 people come out, and we all stood in the middle of on this little mound, in the middle of Joshua Tree, and stood there all night. And she kept saying, they're right there. And she'd point in this one little spot. They're right there. They've been watching us all night. And I'm thinking, this is nonsense, man. Whatever. Sandra's just like this psychic, and they're right there. Okay. And they'll never show up. So all of a sudden, this dude's standing next to me, and he's got that laser, right? He's got that little LED thing. And he goes, whoa, I just got flashed. I go, what? He goes, I just got flashed right there. And he points to and it's right where she was pointing all night. And it's now about 3 a.m. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, watch. He flashes it once, and then this little light goes boom and gives him a flash. I go, give it 2. He goes 1, 2, and it goes 1, 2. I go, give it 3. He gives it 3, and now I'm getting loud. Everybody's getting excited, and this thing that was sitting there all night allegedly, right, all of a sudden gets super bright, and just like super bright, as it gets so bright that it looks like it's coming down on us. And everybody starts getting excited and screaming, and some people are getting scared. And then as everybody got really loud, it went back to a pinpoint of light, and then moved across the sky, maybe an arc of 90 degrees or something, and moved to another part of the sky, and joined 2 others in a perfect triangular formation. And then they rotated about the axis, and then they kind of got tighter and tighter and smaller and smaller and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and they just faded away. And that was my first controlled, what I'll call a controlled experience. You know what I mean? Or what do you call it? A CE5 or what have you. And we did that another time with Sandra. And she also did other weird things. Like she taught us all how to bend spoons or bend, she brought a bunch of old silverware or like tinware. And she kind of had us all in a group and, just had us rubbing the metal, but not bending it, just rubbing it. And I'm thinking, this is freaking nonsense, whatever. We were killing time in the day, right? Before the next Skywatch night. And she was leading us on these little journeys and meditations and stuff. And I'm rubbing my fork, and sure enough, it droops over my finger like a piece of, like a piece of rubber or something. All of a sudden just goes, wah. I'm like, what the? And other people were twisting them. I mean, somebody had one where the prongs of the fork were like rolling up. And I mean, like, this is weird stuff, man. I've never, it's not my background. I'm not from that world. And all of a sudden I'm in it. And
everybody, Steve is a former fighter pilot for the Marines. Talking about spoons and contacting aliens with LEDs. And I remember, you sound crazy and I love it. But here's the thing. When you told me that story about the LED, right? And you were like, no, Jimmy, I'm being serious. I was going, come on, man. Stop that. And you were like, Jimmy, no, you don't get it. So then we went out and I saw it for myself. I did it for and then And I wasn't buying it either, just like you weren't buying it. Today, what are you and I out there doing? Blah, blah, blah. Right? We're all the time, and I am it's not that I'm convinced. It's fun to do.
Yeah,
it's a reality that I don't know, Steve. I mean, I don't give a crap anymore. I understand my position in the media and things, but I'm not worried about my reputation. I'm already out of the closet with this thing, and I don't care. But do you honestly believe that somebody like, Wolf Blitzer, right, or some big media personality from Tucker, right, Sean Hannity, whatever, I don't care who's that, the chick with the hair from MSNBC?
I don't know. I don't watch that one. Laura Ingraham. I'm thinking of the other.
The one that's on at night. I can't think of her name, but anyway, any one of those talking heads, if they went out and shared the experience that we're talking about right now, and they do the whole thing, flash, 1, 2, 1, 3, right? Things are moving, things are winking, things are happening. Do they go on the air the next day and talk about it?
Nope.
No,
of course not. Of course not. They've been not programmed, but their whole lives they've been taught not to believe in that stuff, so it can't exist, even though it happened. But I think that that's part of this evolution, this consciousness evolution that goes on. It doesn't happen to everyone. To the people that it happens to, and they have the profound experience, they have that connection. Now it becomes a very important, I won't say the most important, but it becomes a focal point in their life, right? And then they have to get the answers. So their consciousness is pried open. They have to get the answers. I mean, we used to meet every month, in UPARS, MUFON, and then UPARS at the church there, the Unitarian Church in Studio City. We used to meet there every month. COVID happened, stopped doing it. I get calls, not once, maybe at least once a month, but probably about every other week, from people who want to bring the meeting back. It's the connection that they share, being able to express themselves with somebody else who's also had that experience, right? That's important to them. That means something to them. It's important to have somebody they can talk to about it, because it's so out of the ordinary. And in the normal world, you're ridiculed about it, Like, I do real estate, right? I've literally had people, other colleagues, realtors, saying, "Oh, yeah, you believe in UFOs?" So I know I've lost business, in this community because of that stuff. But it's just a bullet you got to take if you believe in what you're doing. It's the way it is. It's just the way it is.
And what's the future for ufology? And before I ask the question, is disclosure around the corner? You've been dealing with disclosure is going to happen next year, for the last 20 years, right? And we have to wait another year and wait another year. Do you think that's still the case?
I think they'll leak out the information slowly, like I said before. I think that the actual people who have the important information will control that narrative, so that it slowly gets leaked out over time. It's sort of like a drip campaign on the public consciousness, if you will. You can't do it all at once, because they can barely handle their own lives, and then all of a sudden you're going to tell them, these things are real, people have been taken and against their will and experimented on, and there's this whole breeding thing been going on, and we can't control that. We've asked them to stop it, they won't. Things like that. That stuff is upsetting.
That's the other part of this, though. We can talk about the possibility of the Tic Tac being an alien, probe or monitor sent here to check us out. That's pretty easy for people to digest. Right. But if we cross that line, and that you know what I mean, where we cross that line, that's a big leap. But then we have everything else that we have to deal with. we have to deal with the Travis Waltons of the world and the abductees and the direct experiencers and those that have been channeling information. What about cattle mutilations and the things that Linda Moulton Howe has been talking about for years?
Yeah.
That all of this stuff, is Congress going to call those witnesses? Are we going to have that with the House of Representatives?
Yeah. They don't even have the lexicon to deal with that information. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine having to deal with abduction? That's an upsetting one, right? Congress, nobody in Congress has any idea how to deal with that, right? What even caused that? How do you just, who's responsible for it? How can we protect our citizens? Oh, we can't. I mean, there's a lot of upsetting information in there, right? Cattle mutilation, thousands and thousands of dollars per head, right? Lost, gone, disappeared, whatever. So yeah, and all that's being covered up by somebody. These black helicopters going by, and they know about it, and they're taking their samples. It's a big deal, man. So yeah, they're going to bring it out slowly. First you got to get them used to the objects themselves. They exist. Then you have to deal with maybe they're inhabited and maybe they're not, right? And this is going to take time. So full disclosure is a drip campaign. It's not a shotgun. It's going to be a little drip campaign.
There's
in my opinion, I could be totally wrong.
Yeah, well, you might be right. But then there's something that may be out of the government's control and purview, and that's somebody like Avi Loeb, that is running the Galileo project right now, and his book Extraterrestrial about Oumuamua that's a real game changer. I can't tell you how many times I've read the book.
Yeah,
but somebody like that who is a force. He's intelligent. He's an astrophysicist. He's tenured at Harvard.
At Harvard since '93. Guy's been there forever.
He was the director of the black hole. So
no, that dude is off the charts intelligent. Yeah,
right. So if he, outside of the government's control, it's like the movie Contact, right, where he comes out and says, "Hey, we've just imaged this," because that's what he wants to do. He wants to image something in the atmosphere and collect the data and see what's going on. If he takes that step, then everything is on the table, right? Abductees, contact, visitate, everything is going to be outside of the government's control at that point.
Yeah.
This is going to be
it'll be on the table for discussion. Right. So, yeah, it's exciting times, man. I mean, I think December 2017 was a big deal, when the New York Times published that article on the Tic Tac. Yeah, that was a big deal. That was a big first step. I'll call it a first step. It was, second or third step, but it was a big step. And, that had been vetted. That story had been vetted by their legal department. I mean, they went through a lot of work before they released that thing. And I was of course, out of position. I was in Jamaica. I remember when that was released. I was in Jamaica with my wife. We were doing a sandals thing. It was nice, but I was like, damn, here I am with no good internet. But anyway, that was a big deal.
With the dolphins and dealing with. One last thing before we say goodnight, man. It's been 2 years since you've been on the show. And we won't do this again. We won't wait 2 years. But Representative Tim Burchett, after the hearing back on May 17th, lost it in front of the media while the cameras were rolling. Now, Burchett wasn't part of the committee. He was an audience member. All right. But after the hearing was done, he lets loose in front of the media, calling the hearing a sham, and said that the American public has been lied to by our government, and this has to end, and it has to end now. That was one of the most dramatic things I've heard from an elected public official, maybe as an ever.
Yeah.
Was he right in saying that?
Absolutely was. Yeah. Yeah. You have to step on some toes to get some attention sometimes, unless you make it painful. In some way painful or costly to the side that's controlling information, it's going to continue as it is. So yeah, people like him have to step out and put their feet to the fire. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Whether you think that the hearing was great or it wasn't, it doesn't matter. The hearing happened.
Yeah.
And there's always got to be the first one. And no matter what, they could have disclosed, they could have done everything. But we can't even be happy with that. We can't let them know that everything's okay, because then there won't be a next hearing.
Right.
We need the Tim Burchetts of the world to do just what you're saying, right? To be very vocal about this so this can continue. And that's why that hearing to me was so important.
I'm with you 100%.
So what's up with UPARS?
Well, hey, we haven't had a meeting in a long time. And like I said, I keep getting these phone calls. So I'm seriously considering starting it up again. And I called the church last week, and they have the spot available now. It wasn't available before. So yeah, we're probably going to go back to the meetings, and I think we'll start out small. Hey, I'd love to get your speaker list sometime, Jimmy.
It was funny when I started Fade to Black. I went to Steve and I said, "I need your speaker list." Man, have times changed.
How the coin is flipped.
Hey, you know what though? I'll come out there and kick off UPARS.
That'd be awesome. Oh man, that's poetic.
And do it. Last time I was there, I surprised myself. We had a packed house.
We did. We had a blast too.
It was.
You did the show from there.
We did that.
Was that the first time or the second time?
We've done that a couple of times. No, the last time I just spoke.
That's right. You gave the presentation. That's right.
Yeah, I gave a presentation. I can't remember what I spoke about, but I don't think anybody cared. We were just there having a party, but it was full. So let's, I'll do it. Let's kick this thing off and let's do it.
All right.
I'm down.
All right. Okay.
You don't even have to call my agent. Steve Murillo, you're the absolute very best. I can't wait to get you and Pat back out here. I'm going to cook you my fabulous shrimp scampi. Lisa Reed told me to tell you hi. And
tell her I said hi. And hey, first of all, I appreciate you having me back on, Jimmy. I want to thank you for that. Also, personally, I want to thank all the Fadernauts out there for being such staunch supporters of your show. And I think it's a big deal. You guys that are out there listening that support Jimmy in the show, and I think it's just a really, really big deal, and I'm really happy to see it. Every time I listen to your show, I'm just in awe of the Fadernauts. So good job, guys.
It was all your idea. So
yeah, sure it was. Yeah.
At least I've come clean publicly.
It was all my whatever.
Steve, you're the absolute very best. Yes, let's do the UPARS
That'd be great.
Grand opening. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's do it, and we'll make that happen. In the meantime, get home to Pat. Tell her I said yo, and say hello to the dogs for me. Okay?
All right, Jimmy. Thank you, man. Take care. Have a great evening.
It's Steve Murillo, the absolute very best. We just went pole to pole, bumper to bumper, beginning to end, to and fro. And that's what I expect from Steve Murillo. He's the absolute very best. Thank you so much, Steve. Steve, stay right there. I'll come back and say goodnight. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. I want to thank Madeline and Brian for the mug. Absolutely wonderful. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR of the Game Changer Network, and this broadcast is only copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night, right here, Cheryl Costa, the mythical daily UFO hotspot. That's what we're doing tomorrow night. Until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tappy.